Okay, so Mumbai, April 17th, 2025. And yesterday brought some pretty big news for schools here in Maharashtra.
Yeah, quite a significant announcement.
A new rule making Hindi mandatory, a third language, right, for classes 1 to 5.
That's right, specifically in the Marathi and English medium schools.
Now, on the surface, it might just sound like adding another subject, but this feels like it has deeper ripples.
It definitely does. It touches on education, identity, communication.
Exactly. So that's what we want to do today, really dig into this, try to understand, the thinking behind it, how people are reacting, and what it all really means.
And we're drawing this from the government resolution that came out yesterday, the 16th, and also looking at the bigger picture, the National Education Policy 2020.
Right, the NEP. So let's start with the core change. What was the situation before this, and what exactly is changing now?
Okay, so traditionally, if you were in a primary school, say classes 1 to 5, and it was Marathi medium or English medium, your main languages were just those two, Marathi and English. Mandatory.
Similar.
Yeah. Now, Hindi is being added as a compulsory third language, starting right from class 1 in the next academic year, 2025-26.
Right up to class 5.
Exactly. It's worth noting, though, this isn't entirely new for all schools in Maharashtra.
Oh,
Schools that already use other languages as the main medium, like Urdu or Gujarati medium schools, they've actually been following a three-language setup for a while.
okay. So this kind of brings the Marathi and English medium schools in line with that, in a way.
Sort of, yeah. But the key difference is making it mandatory for this specific large group of schools. That's the real shift.
Okay, so why? Why now? What's the official rationale? You mentioned the NEP 2020.
That seems to be the main driver, yes.
Okay.
The NEP puts a really strong emphasis on multilingualism.
The idea being.
The idea being that knowing multiple languages, well, good for you cognitively, but also really practical in a diverse country like India. The aim is for students eventually, by high school, to know at least three languages.
So this is Maharashtra implementing that piece of the NEP.
Pretty much. They're rolling out the NEP in phases, and this looks like step 1 for the language aspect in primary. The plan is to extend this structure, up through the classes, reaching class 12 by maybe 2028, 29.
Got it. It's part of a longer-term strategy then. And the Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, he's framed Hindi in a particular way, hasn't he? The link language idea.
He has.
Okay.
His argument focuses on the practical side. He's quoted saying essentially that, while everyone in Maharashtra should absolutely know Marathi, that's fundamental, knowing Hindi is important for communication across India.
Like a tool for wider connection.
Exactly. A bridge, if you will, for interacting nationally, for opportunities beyond the state.
Now, this whole three-language formula, you mentioned it's not brand new in concept.
No, not at all. It actually dates back to 1968. It's been national policy for decades.
But not always followed everywhere.
Right. Implementation has been really inconsistent. Some states have historically pushed back quite strongly. Tamil Nadu is a classic example, Tripura too, for different reasons.
So Maharashtra making this move now is, well, it's a statement in itself, choosing to actively implement it.
It signals a definite commitment, yes. And it seems they're putting resources behind it too, not just stating a policy.
Yeah, talk about that. The teacher training aspect sounds quite significant.
It does. The goal is apparently to get 80% of teachers trained up by 2025. That's soon. Trained in new methods, using digital tools, presumably to handle this multilingual approach.
80% is a huge number.
It really is. And alongside that, the curriculum bodies, CERT and Balparati, they handle the textbooks. They're tasked with revamping materials to support this.
It sounds like a massive undertaking logistically, getting the teachers ready, the books printed.
Oh, absolutely. Huge logistical challenges.
Yeah.
And, it's around these practicalities, but also the fundamental principle that we're hearing the opposition.
Right, because it hasn't been universally welcomed. The Congress Party, for instance, they're not holding back.
No, they're using strong language, calling it an imposition, framing it as a threat to Marathi pride.
Tell me more about that stance. Vijay Wadettiwar, the Congress leader, seems particularly vocal.
He is. He's called it an injustice, even an attack on the identity of Marathi speakers. His main point is that Hindi should be optional, not mandatory.
Because making it mandatory diminishes Marathi.
That's the core argument, that it inevitably sidelines Marathi, a language with such a deep history and cultural weight in the state. He even asked, rather pointedly, if national leaders like the PM or Amit Shah learn Marathi when they visit Maharashtra.
Highlighting a perceived lack of reciprocity.
Precisely. It taps into that feeling that the importance isn't equal.
And you mentioned the cultural weight of Marathi. It's clearly more than just communication for many people here.
Oh, absolutely. You have to remember the history. The state of Maharashtra itself was formed in 1960 after significant movement, the Samyukta Maharashtra movement, which was centered on linguistic identity. Marathi was the rallying cry,
So the language is tied to the state's very foundation.
deeply tied. And its literary tradition is vast, stretching back centuries to saints like Janeshwar and continuing through modern icons like P.L. Deshpande. So for many, protecting Marathi feels like protecting their heritage, their identity.
And it's not just the Congress Party raising concerns, is it? The MNS, Maharashtra Navnirman Sena, they've also spoken out.
Yes, they have. Sandeep Deshpande from the MNS made the point that Hindi isn't technically India's single official language, reflecting that broader sentiment that pushing Hindi risks overlooking the country's huge linguistic diversity.
Their stance seems to be very clearly Marathi first.
Marathi first, always,
Yeah.
is the sentiment, yes. So across the board, the opposition's fear seems to be this potential overshadowing of Marathi in its own heartland.
Okay, let's just maybe pause on the politics for a second and think about the classroom. These are young kids, right? 6, 7, 8 years old.
Okay, ones, yeah.
Adding the third language. I mean,
Yeah.
can you just picture it? The potential for mix-ups.
Slight laugh.
You can imagine the scenes, can't you? Trying to keep track of similar words. Is Pug run in Marathi or Hindi today? And the poor parents trying to help with homework.
Right. Which punny did the teacher mean? It does add a layer of complexity for very young minds.
Definitely a cognitive load to consider.
And the teachers. Mrs. Deshmukh, trying to navigate Marathi grammar, then switch to Hindi phonetics, all while keeping English in the mix. That training better be good.
Absolutely crucial. Effective pedagogy for teaching 3 languages simultaneously isn't simple. You need the right skills, the right support.
It feels like, as you said, this whole political debate is almost like a linguistic wrestling match playing out.
In a way, yes. Different views on language and identity vying for position.
So let's zoom out again. What are the really big implications here? This feels like it goes beyond just adding Hindi class.
It really does. You've got the cultural identity piece, which we've touched on, Marathi as this symbol of history and pride.
Versus the argument that Hindi is just an extra tool, not a replacement. Exactly. Then there's the educational impact. The potential plus of multilingualism is well documented, but
only if it's done well.
precisely. Teacher readiness, resource availability, these are huge ifs.
Yeah.
If those aren't there, you risk creating more problems than you solve, educationally speaking.
And then the politics, this whole Hindi imposition narrative, it connects to bigger questions about how India works, doesn't it? Federalism, states' rights.
Very much so. Language policy is often a flashpoint for those center-state tensions. What happens here could definitely set precedents or fuel debates elsewhere.
And just practically fitting it all in. The new school structure is already 5 + 3 + 3 + 4. Where does the time for a mandatory third language come from without squeezing something else?
That's a really valid point. Curriculum design, timetable allocation. It all needs a serious rethink to accommodate this properly. It's not just about adding a subject. It's about restructuring the learning experience.
It's interesting, too, seeing this alongside other things happening, like promoting Marathi using AI for literature or getting it recognized as a classical language.
It is a complex dynamic. There are efforts to elevate regional languages, definitely. And at the same time, this push for a common link language,
It's a balancing act.
a very delicate one. Ensuring one effort doesn't undermine the other is, I think, the key challenge for policymakers.
So wrapping up, it seems Maharashtra is really stepping into a new linguistic phase. It's driven by the NEP's goals, but it's definitely stirring up deep feelings about Marathi identity and raising practical questions about making it work.
That sums it up well. Language in India is just so tightly wound with identity, culture, politics.
Yeah.
Any change is bound to be complex and generate strong views.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, for a country with such incredible linguistic diversity, how do states find that sweet spot, balancing the promotion of their own languages with maybe the usefulness of a common tongue for national stuff?
It's the fundamental question, isn't it?
And what are the long-term effects on how kids see themselves, their culture, and just purely on their education? It feels like this journey in Maharashtra, well, it's just beginning, and the rest of the country might be watching closely.